Hello, today we're gonna work on an MSI computer, MSI laptop. The model number is MS-16K2. That's a GS63VR. This is the computer. Okay. And the problem this machine, the problem it has, and I've seen it. That's the reason also I'm making this video, is because I've seen this issue with similar models from MSI. The problem with it is it does overheat. Under heavy stress, the CPU is reaching around 92-93 degrees Celsius. You have to realize that's a very high temperature. For those not familiar with the Celsius, pretty much the water boils at 100 degrees. So 92-93, it's very hot for any component to be running at. Also, the fans are running at constant high speed. Therefore, after a little while, the fan starts to make a little bit out of ordinary sound. Not like a grinding, but it's not a normal fan sound. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna open the computer up, change the thermal paste under the CPU and the graphics card in order to try to bring down the temperatures. That's pretty much the only thing you can do about in this computer. And we're also gonna try to fix the issue with the fan, with the noisy fan. Now, just a short story about this one. The MSI computers are typically good machines, good gaming machines. However, the problem with it, and I've seen it, as I said, many times, is because they're packing a lot of power into a relatively small, thin enclosure. So therefore, well, it has three fans. It has the CPU fan, which is right here, and you have two fans which are responsible of cooling the graphic card. The problem is they're way too close to each other. They share obviously the same heat pipe, which is it's a common design in many of the gaming machines, but due to its small size, it doesn't properly cool down. Now let's start digging into this computer and show you how to actually, if you try to attempt that, how to change the thermal paste under the CPU, and how to kind of fix the issue with the fans without having to replace the fans. If you decide to go on the route changing the fans completely, you can find them. They're about $30 to $50 depending where you're finding them. For a brand new one, the two fans for the graphic card, and the CPU fan, it's a little bit cheaper. It's about $17 to $25. Now I'm getting many inquiries. Hey, where did you get the parts for a certain job? Well, I'm not gonna make a commercial for a certain seller or anything, but pretty much your two most common venues to find parts are either Amazon or eBay. There is Newegg, so far and so forth. There might be other websites, but the two most common ones that I use are eBay and Amazon. Okay, so without further ado, let me show you how to open this computer. Okay. So you're gonna have couple screws on the back of the machine. So we're gonna start removing them. It's one of the easy computers to actually open the back panel in order to access the internals. However, changing the thermal paste it turns out to be slightly more difficult than in some other machines, in a sense that pretty much you'll have to remove the whole motherboard in order to reach those components. Now, since this is a pretty boring part, the changing of the screws, I'm going to show you. I mean, if you decide to change the thermal paste, I would highly recommend you to go for a good thermal paste. You can find them for anywhere $3–5 to about $20. I typically use an Arctic Silver, and that's one which I use the most. It's an MX4. It's more than decent. It's got a very good consistency. It's not very watery, as many of them when you squeeze the tube out, it leaves a little bit like a watery residue on the components. I don't like that. So this is pretty thick. Now, all the screws, with all the screws removed, you'll have to use a pry tool, something like this guy, and you're gonna wedge it right here. Let me show you. So right in between these parts, and just lift up. Okay, some sound like a cracking sound. It's absolutely normal, as there are some well, this was open before, so obviously it makes it easier. Okay, so as I said, cracking sound, it's absolutely normal because there are plastic teeth holding the back case together. Now, first thing you want to do once you open any computer for any kind of repair, it's basically disconnect the battery. Okay, you don't want to work on a computer which still has power running through it, as you can easily short the components. Now let me find that. Let's remove. This is on this computer. This is the battery, and that's your connection. If you want, you can also remove the battery. It will make it a little bit easier for you down the road to work on the motherboard. For me, that's not necessary, so I'm just going to pull the wires straight out of the main board. Let me find this. Okay. And yes, some people were criticizing me, oh, why are you using metal tools, why are you using metal tweezers, this and that. Well, look, if you don't like the way I'm working, I mean, I'm doing this for a living, I'm doing this for quite a while, I know what I'm doing. Yes, it might not be the safest way to use tools, but feel free to buy yourself like a plastic tweezers or something like that, so you're not running the risk of actually shorting anything should you choose touch any components on the main board. Okay, so I'm gonna pull on this one. Okay, try not to pour too much on the cables. You can help, you can help yourself by pulling on the cables a little bit, so it loses the connection right here. And okay, this turns out to be a little bit more difficult than expected. Okay, so here we go. We have the cable out. Now we're gonna remove this Kapton tape, which is holding couple connections. You can put it somewhere on the desk with the sticky side up, so you can reuse it in case you don't have a replacement one. Okay. Now, okay, we're gonna remove the hard drive connection. If you have a regular hard drive in your machine, then you can completely remove the drive and put it on the side. Okay, as if you're tilting the computer, the hard drive is at the risk of actually falling off, as it's not secured with any kind of screws. Move the cable, which is going to the front LED panel, and the power cable, power switch cable. Okay. And here we're gonna disconnect. Let's see, let me zoom in so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. Okay. We will disconnect the keyboard, trackpad. Then you have the little USB board on the side. Be very careful with these little plastic flaps, as if you put much pressure on them they might actually break. And there's the LCD backlight cable. I'm sorry, keyboard backlight cable. And then on the side, as you see, there is another cable right here, which is okay, let's disconnect this guy. This would be the LCD connector. Gonna remove that, and it's glued pretty much on top of the fans. Those are the fans which we're trying to actually fix, because they're making a noise. And what else? We have this little cable, which we'll take completely out. Now all the cables seem to be disconnected. Now we can start to unscrew the screws. Remember their positions, so you know where to put it back once you assemble the computer. They are not marked like in other machines. They have a little arrow right next to the cable. That's not the case with this particular computer. So you have 1, 2. You have one more under the CPU fan. Then remove on the other side, and then you have 2 more right here. Okay, now as you see the fan, you can see one other screw right here. We wanna disconnect that one as well, and we will have to remove the Wi-Fi card. Captain tape. Remove the 2 cables by pulling on the actual connector like that, not on the cable itself, so on the connector, because the cable might break easier. So one is out and the other one is out. You have a screw right here. You're gonna unscrew that as well. This one is loose now. Okay, now it looks like all the screws, we're gonna do a double check. All the screws seems to be unscrewed. Now it's time to actually lift the main board. We can grab it on this side by the heatsink and wiggle it a little bit, and it should come off pretty easy. Now I'm going to show you another thing, and I left it there just so you see. You have the small BIOS battery, which is right here, okay, which is located under the main battery. Now you want to disconnect that before removing the main board, so you can just grab it a little bit. I grab it by the wire, I pull it a little bit just so I can see the actual connector right there, and I will pop it up with the help of the tweezers, and that's it, that's out. Now we can fully lift this one slowly, and the reason for that is another cable right there. You see, now that cable, it's actually the speaker cable, so we'll have to remove that. And my bad, I'm sorry, I was mentioning before that's the BIOS battery. No, it's not. This is it's actually the cable for the other speaker. Now we have the motherboard out. We can pull the computer, put the computer on the side, the shell of the computer, and let me just show you. Okay, now in case you want to change the RAM, this is how you change it. Okay, that's the stick of RAM. You can replace it anyways. This one has it's got a 16 gigabytes, so that should be plenty enough. Then you have your regular hard drive, the main drive, which is SSD, an NVMe SSD drive. And let's disassemble the heatsink assembly and do what I said we're gonna do: replace the thermal paste. Okay, we wanna remove these little guys. Okay. These are used so they don't transfer heat to the back of the computer. You can put them back once we're done. We have to remove them because you have some screws underneath. Okay. Now we're gonna start with the CPU, which is held in place by 3 fans. And remember, the CPU was the part which actually was getting very, very hot, so we have to pay extra attention to the condition of the thermal paste on top of the CPU. Now we have 4 more screws which are holding together the heatsink to the graphics card. Okay. Now with the screws removed, we want to carefully remove the fan connectors, okay, in order to lift the whole heatsink assembly. So you have these two are right here, so we grab it and push it forward. Okay. If you're using metal tweezers, for those very anal about it, do not push it all the way. Make sure the tips of the tweezer, they don't touch the main board. They're a little bit elevated, and then slowly push on it so you don't have any chance to knock any other components of the main board. Okay, now again, for those criticizing for using metal tools, if you don't have the steady hand and if you are not sure on what you're actually doing, then you should not be doing this in the first place. Leave it to a professional, but I assume you have some sort of technical skills if you're gonna attempt to do this. So yeah, anyways, now we're gonna slowly move the heatsink, try to jiggle it back and forth, as the thermal paste made it to get stuck on the. Okay, so we're gonna give it a little bit of play, not too much, on both sides, and now it's easy to lift. Okay, now be very careful, because right here you have, see, those are actually thermal pads, and we're going to reuse them. If yours needs to be replaced, you can do that as well. This one look in perfect condition. They still have the little oil on them, so they are perfectly fine. And besides the video RAM, which these are supposed to be cooling, doesn't get that hot anyways in the first place. Neither are the other components. So what I'm gonna be concentrating is the actual graphic card, the die on the graphic card, and the CPU. Now I was saying to pay close attention to the paste, to the thermal paste. It looks actually pretty much okay. It's not as bad as I was expecting it to be. Okay, so we're gonna, you don't have to do this, I'm just showing you so you see the consistency of it. Now we're gonna take a little brush, feel free to use a used toothbrush or whatever you might have handy, and we're going to clean that one up. You can use first a little napkin. Okay, you don't have to use any alcohol or anything like that. You just go with the napkin on top of the CPU, and there you go, nice and clean. You'll do the same here, just don't put too much pressure on the graphics card, because as you see, there are those little components right there. You might be knocking them off, and that's bad. Okay, now where the napkin didn't reach, you can use a little toothbrush just to remove the okay, to remove the extra thermal paste. And let me just clean it up. Let me find another brush. Okay. And that will give it a nice clean. And we're gonna put this on the side right now. And we're gonna do the same thing on the heatsink. Now here you might actually have to scrape this with something. Okay, the extra thermal paste. Just do like that. We're gonna put it onto a napkin, and we'll do the same on the CPU side. And now we can just remove the extra thermal paste with a dry napkin. Should you want to use some sort of alcohol, by all means feel free. Not necessary, but if you want to do it, feel free to do that. Isopropyl alcohol, which is the most common one, should work just fine. Another alcohol that I'm typically using for electronics, it's called denaturated alcohol. Okay, so now in order to remove the fans, when you're going to buy a new fan, you have these little screws right here. I don't know if you can see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll have to remove those tiny little screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There we go. And now the fans, okay, they keep falling. Okay, stay there. And the fans should be helped a little bit, I find, in order to, okay. And come on, there you go. You push them slowly, and this is your fan. Okay, let's put this part here which keeps on falling. We're gonna use it later on. Now, once you have the fans out, you can clean them out. This one, as you see, they're pretty clean, not a lot of dust on them, but you can pretty much clean it up with a brush. Don't put it on a flat surface, because you don't want to really keep them in your hand, as they might bend and then they're gonna make a grinding sound, okay, which is not what you want them to do. Then you can also remove the actual blades. Okay, you grab them on two sides and you slightly lift it up, just like so. Now I'm gonna show you how to actually clean this one and how to oil them, and why do you have to do that. Okay, now what you need for cleaning of the fans, you'll need some Q-tips, and you need a little bit of alcohol. Okay, so dip your Q-tips into alcohol, and you're gonna go into a circular motion, you see, around the magnet right here. You go just like that, in order to remove any loose magnetic dust. Okay, then we go around this little shaft. Okay, because these fans spinning at a full speed in order to cool down the machine is bound for the magnet to release some dust, which might go around the moving parts, the shaft and the hole right there. I'm going to show you in a second. And it might make the fan, it might cause the fan to go slightly off balance. Okay, so one is clean, we're gonna do the other one. Use a different Q-tip. Let's see. nice good clean. Now these ones are in a pretty good shape, to be honest with you. I've seen much worse. However, you see, this is how the Q-tip looks after I'm cleaning all that dust. And that's not supposed to be like that. In the other one was actually quite clean. As you see, the Q-tip, it had no mark. So this most probably was the one which was making noise. And I'll apply a little bit more alcohol. Okay. Now the Q-tip looks much better. We're gonna clean the excess alcohol. Okay. You see that? Still coming off, so okay, much better. Perfect. See, in the other one, nothing. It's perfectly nice and clean. So the little fan was the one which was making sound. Now we're gonna put the blades on the side, the fan blades, and we will try to clean up the housing, clean any dust that you can see. Okay, and unfortunately the hole where the fan goes in is too small to put in anything inside, but typically does not need it because it's very hard for the dust or whatever is there to go inside. Now we're just gonna clean with alcohol. We're gonna clean up the side of right here. Not that that might be anything, but since it's open up, you wanna do a proper job. Okay. Now for the putting back these ones, I typically use it's a grease, which is a high temperature grease. You can find it in Home Depot. It's used for high temperature ball bearings. It does not attack plastic. You'll find it, I forgot the name of it. Yeah, it comes in two big tubes. One is green, one is red. Don't use the green one, as the green one will attack the plastic. It will eat through the plastic. Now we're going to take a little bit of this grease. You can use also oils, and just put a little bit around here. Okay. Now this thermal grease, some might argue that it might interfere with the rotation speed of the fan because it's thicker and it adds an extra layer of material, so between the little shaft and of the fan. Now does not, it is true, but the speed decrease is probably a couple RPMs. You're losing couple RPMs, not tens, but couple of RPMs per second. So now we're gonna put the fan back where it belongs. Give it a nice spin. It spins freely. Gonna put the second one in. Okay, let's find it here. Okay, press on the middle of the fan, don't press on the blades because they might break. Okay, perfect. Okay, so these fans are done. We're gonna put them back just like that. And we're gonna put the screws on the other side, and then we're gonna repeat the operation to the fan of the CPU, which actually that fan is spinning all the times. From the moment you turn on the computer until you shut it off, that fan is constantly spinning. The fans for the graphic card, however, they only spin when the graphic card reaches temperature, a certain temperature. Now we're gonna put back those screws. Also, while you're at it, I didn't have to do it because this was pretty clean assembly, but you can blow the dust from within these fins. Okay, perfect. Make sure they're nice and tight. And now we're gonna repeat that with the CPU fan. Now this one, it only has 3 screws, which is holding it together. 2 and 3. This one looks a little bit dustier because, as I said, it's constantly spinning. And on this side you have a little bit of a rubber material which is keeping it together with the fins. We're gonna loosen that one up. I'm using an X-Acto knife, a flat tip one. Okay, with this one loosened, I can remove the fan. Should be able to remove the fan. Okay, still holding here. Okay. Now, as you see, there is a little bit more dust in here, so we're gonna clean that one up. Take a little brush and we're just gonna clean it up like that. I'm not gonna do it on the desk, but that's okay. And we're gonna clean up this fan. Okay. Give it a good clean. We're gonna remove the fan blades. Okay, just like that. And we're gonna use again our Q-tips with alcohol. Make sure you go all the way around. Make sure you go around the little X over there. Okay. Again, the Q-tip is pretty clean, considering that this one, it's a constantly spinning fan. Clean it around here. Okay, I'll take all this dust. Okay, and we're gonna apply the thermal grease. Again, you don't have to put too much, just enough so it has lubrication that will keep your fans running for much longer. Okay, put the fan back on. Okay, there you go. It's nice and clean. We're gonna put it back on the assembly. Okay, just like that. We're gonna reapply the screws on the other side, and that's pretty much how the cleaning of the fans in virtually any computer. Now, if you're using this guide to clean the fans of another machine, which is not shown obviously in this video, keep in mind that some of them, the blades of the fan, are not removable, so you might pull onto them, but they will not come off from the little motor. If it doesn't come out easily, don't put too much force on it, as you might break it. But again, the fans are not expensive. It's just that you're gonna be without a computer for a little while, until, in case you break it, until you receive a replacement fan. Okay, now especially the people who play games, I know that they cannot wait, sometimes not even 24 hours. They wanna resume using their computer as soon as possible, so you don't want to be waiting. Now we're gonna put back, because this little piece was keep falling. Okay, so we're gonna put it in its place. Okay, there you go. Now these thermal pads, you can actually find them online to buy. You can replace them if they look completely dry. The reason I'm not replacing them right now is because it's not needed. I don't know if you can see, but there is still, it looks like you see an oily film on it, so that means that they're in perfect shape. If they look completely dry, then it's time to have them changed. Now we're gonna reapply the thermal paste onto the CPU and GPU. Oh, and I was saying about the film. You see right here also on these components, they look like they're a little bit wet. Don't clean them up. It's just the oil from the thermal pads. Now we're gonna put a little bit. Don't go crazy with the thermal compound, okay? Because not much of it is needed. You put just a little blob right there, and you can do 2 blobs on the graphics card. Okay, that's plenty enough, because when you're gonna put the screws, it's the pressure of the heatsink is gonna spread that thermal paste. I know that some thermal paste, they come with a little scoop, or I don't know how to call it, to actually spread the thermal compound. That's not needed. Okay, the pressure and the physics are gonna do the job for you. Okay, now we're gonna align this. We're gonna start with, in the reverse order, we're gonna start with the graphics card screws first. I typically go in opposite corners, so we'll do one over there, and then we're gonna move to the opposite side. Okay, and there. Okay, make sure they're tight. Now we're gonna do the CPU. I'm gonna plug back in the fans. Use your fingers. They should make like a clicking sound once they're safely back in. Okay, and the last one right here. Okay, perfect. Now I'm gonna take the housing. and we work in reverse order. Now you might, while you're here, you might want to clean the dust inside here. Okay. To make this computer like new. Okay. And now we're gonna put it back in. We're gonna start with the side where it has all the connections. We're gonna put that one in first. Okay, let's see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go just like this. Okay, make sure the cables are up. Okay, and remember, now it's time to connect the speakers, because otherwise you're gonna have a little bit of a hard time reconnecting them after the motherboard is completely seated. So we're gonna take this one and put it back where it belongs. The nice people at the MSI, they were actually nice enough to mark the top side of the connection. It has a marker, a black marker signs on it. Okay, this is a little bit awkward for me to put it because I have to watch the camera on top of me. Okay, so that's it. Make sure the cable is on top. We remove the battery. Okay. There we go. Just give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, it's opening time, almost opening time, so it starts to become a little bit noisy around here, so I just have to shut the door of my shop. Okay, we're gonna hook up the second speaker. And now we can push the motherboard down. Now, if you guys see that the video was stopped a couple of times, you'll have to excuse me, but I'm using a certain camera, which is an awesome camera, but it gets hot while shooting videos, and I'll have to allow it a little bit of time to cool itself before I can resume recording. So that's why the video might look like it was cut. It's not cut for any other reasons, but to allow the camera to cool down. I know it's stupid, but that's what I have for now, so that's what I have to use. Now we're gonna put back the screws into the main board. In case you don't remember where it was, you can use this video as a guide. Okay, one there, one here. Okay. Oh, sorry, not there, my bad. I'm gonna put the one which is holding the fan right there. Okay. I have one more down here. Okay, and now just let's connect all the cables. We're gonna start with the LCD. We're gonna start from the top. Okay. Then this rail guy right here is the actual power cable for, you have a little indicator which is on the top of the bezel, which shows you that the computer is on. Okay. Now this one's, try again, be very careful with these connections, as the plastic flaps holding it together, it's very fragile and you can easily damage that. You don't want to do that. Okay, make sure they're all the way in. Okay, again, the nice people at the MSI, they made sure to put a little black sign on the cable which indicates how deep it should go. That black marking should align, you see, with the plastic flap. Now for the keyboard, let's see here. You want to bend it first and then put it flat, just like this, and then with the tweezer you can just secure it into place on both sides. Okay, and it's on. And then we'll do this little backlight cable. Okay. Again, make sure they're straight. Okay. Perfect. That's that. Now we're gonna reconnect this cable right here. And before anything, you wanna make sure that everything is connected. Like for example, in my case, I forgot to connect this little cable. So obviously going twice over the cables, you will find any cables which are actually not properly connected. Okay, that's that. Now we're gonna reconnect the Wi-Fi. Gonna push it in at first. Take the cables out of the way. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna keep them there. Gonna put it at like a 45 degrees angle and then just push it down. Okay. I'm gonna put back the screw first to keep it in place. Okay, and now we will reconnect these two cables. I'm not sure you're gonna be able to see. The black one goes onto the right hand side. Very awkward position for me to work in, especially for this machine, as the camera, it's about 10" above the computer, so I have to kind of put my hand in between the camera and the machine, so it's a little bit of an awkward angle. Okay, that's done. Now that's secure in place. There are two more screws, one there and one there. Okay, and that's that. Now we're gonna connect this cable. This is labeled MB motherboard, so you know which side goes where. Okay, that's that. And we can reapply the Kapton tape if you wish. It's really not that necessary, but might as well. Okay. We can put back the hard drive. Okay. So we set it here and just connect it. Okay. And we push it down. And the last connector we're gonna put, it's the battery itself. Once everything else is in place, double check there are no loose connections anywhere, and that Captain tape. So everything is connected. Now we're gonna put in the battery and then push it with your fingers. It is much easier to actually put the battery in than taking it out. Okay, and now we can put back the cover and fire up the computer to test it. Okay, so we go from the top. Just push it down. Here at the top you might have to use the pry tool in order to push back a little bit. Okay, that plastic cover for the fins, so the top case actually goes in nice and flat. So I'll put back the screws. I'm gonna, well, actually let me show you everything from beginning to the end. I was about to skip this part because it's nothing more than just putting back the screws, but since it's claiming to be a full guide disassembly and assembly, might as well do it the right way. Okay. I'm also gonna show you, I'm gonna reinstall the stress test on the machine, and I'm gonna briefly show you the temperatures at which the computer is running. So yeah, before I got interrupted by a phone call, I was saying that I'm gonna show you a stress test with the new temperatures of the machine. The reason I didn't show the temperatures prior of this one is because the stress test was done last night and I had to get permission from the customer actually to work on his computer. So as I was saying, actually let me see, because I have a picture of it. Let's see here, just give me 1 second. Okay, so this is the values of the CPU as of last night. I'm not sure if you can actually see. Core 1 was 94 degrees Celsius. Okay, maximum was 97. Core 3 was 97 degrees. GPU was fine at 71 degrees. Okay, the other cores were 88 Celsius and 87 Celsius. Both of them, I mean all 4 of them, were way too hot. Okay, now I'm not showing everything in the video. I'm getting criticized by some people. It's just that these repairs are done in real time, and pretty much I wish I could show you all the tests I'm doing prior and after, but you know, on some things you'll have to take my word for it. Now I'm just gonna fire up the computer, and I will show you shortly the values of the CPU and GPU. Okay, so yeah guys, the computer is on right now. The stress test is running, and as you can see, the temperatures right here, they're in there below 80 degrees. Remember what the temperatures were before: 82, 87, 94 and 97, I believe, or something like that. Look also on this side. Those are the cores. Core 0 74 degrees, core 1 79. This was running before at, let me just say here, before it was a 97 Celsius. Right now it's at 80 degrees Celsius. A 74 before it was 87, and 80 before it was a 97 degrees Celsius. The GPU before was 71 degrees Celsius. Right now it's a 63. So yes, it did make a little bit of a difference. Now this is not claiming to be a permanent solution. Depending on how much you're actually using the computer, the effectiveness of this repair is gonna decrease, so you'll have to do it all over again, probably in a year or so. Okay, now the temperatures are gonna go higher, but they will, I'm gonna let it run for about an hour to fully test it, and then we'll compare the results of the repair with what it was before. So with that said, this is how the repaste of the CPU and graphic card would go in an MSI computer. I showed you how to improve the effectiveness of the fans, and that's pretty much all you can do, or any repair shop can do, in order to bring down the temperatures in these machines. It's just, I wouldn't say it's a design flaw, but it's something the engineers at the MSI, they kind of missed when they designed these computers. They packed way too much power, and the cooling system is not the optimal one. Now, if this video helped you in any way, please leave a comment, like the video. Why not subscribe to the channel, where I'm trying to actually bring you some videos as soon as I can. I'm a little bit busy at work lately. I don't have time to make as many videos as I wish I will be able to make, but I'll try to keep the channel updated as often as possible. So yeah, without any further ado, I hope this video helped. If it did, again, subscribe to my channel, and until next time, take care.